Powerful insights about self-worth, about self-doubt. I'm sorry. Welcome to the School of Self-Worth Live, everybody. I'm Sam Osborne, the self-worth guy. Today is episode number 175, and we are absolutely treated today with another wonderful guest all the way from Germany. Everybody say hello to Oksana Ulanovska. I think I've said your name wrong like every single time now, Oksana, but please tell us how you say your name and say hi to everybody.
Hello, everyone. Such a pleasure to connect with you. Thank you, Sam, for having me. You're an amazing person. I can tell that. And I was, just really, really eager to meet you in person in this way. So pleasure. And my name is very simple. As you said, it was perfect. Oksana Ulanovska. I am a business mindset coach, and I'm so inspired to be here with you tonight.
Great. Okay, we're going to start with a few fun questions. Okay, what is your all-time favorite breakfast on vacation?
That's my everyday breakfast.
You could
Red
choose anyone.
cappuccino.
Cappuccino?
Red cappuccino,
Red cappuccino. Why red cappuccino?
which is rooibos tea espresso, something they do in South Africa. So I am kind of German, but for the last few months I've been based in South Africa. So I'm currently in Johannesburg. And what they have here is this amazing red cappuccino, because rooibos tea is the thing in South Africa. That's what they drink. And they make espresso from it, and they call it the red cappuccino. So I love having that for my breakfast.
All right. I would have thought that it was red wine, but that's where my head went. But coffee and
LA.
red wine, maybe not. Okay, another fun question. What's on your playlist right now for music and dancing?
Does Joe Dispenza's meditation count? I don't, because that's
Yes.
factually what's on my playlist. For dancing, I take that back.
No, you can dance to Joe Dispenza. That's totally fine. I'm sure he'd be
Oh no, you're
happy.
falling over. No dancing. He talks about salsa sometimes in examples, but you don't dance with Joe. With Joe, you sit.
He would be saying, okay, in the morning, talk to the voice, the witness, and say, what should I wear while I dance this morning to help me manifest, success into my life? And for me, it would be disco house. Any disco. I love it. Love disco. Yeah. Have a background in DJing. All right.
Too bad.
Now let's get to the topic of today is powerful insights about self-doubt. Now, this is a topic that I love talking about, and I know that this is a topic that you can definitely share some great insights about. So let's go back a little bit, and I'm going to ask you, why did you originally be attracted to wanting to educate people about this topic? Just start with how it came to be.
So let's take one chapter out of it, because there is a long book about how it came to be. I'll just focus on one chapter. I have, for my whole life, I've had a very high value on romantic relationships. Like, I love men. I love the just interactions with men. It's just something that is very close to my heart.
But you couldn't eat a whole one, though.
I couldn't what?
You couldn't eat a whole one. You loved them, but you couldn't eat a whole one. There's too much. You'd have to chop them up.
Not for the lack of trying.
Okay.
No. So I do. I absolutely do. So I have had beautiful, beautiful experiences. Very blessed to be with amazing men in my life romantically. And every one of the relationships that I've had have been profound and magnificent, really do. So the challenge was for me that I felt, hey, I would love to see more of you open up to me. And they would find that it was like, sometimes it would work and it would be amazing, but sometimes they're like, they want to, and they just like couldn't quite open up to me. So there was that side to men that I felt wasn't really available to them. And in popular culture, we call it, emotionally shut down or disconnected or all of these things. And in my relationships, I made the time to find out ways how to achieve that, because to me, that the connection that happens between two individuals who love each other profoundly is the most precious thing that I live for. That's what I'm alive for. So not being able to have it, and you know, and each relationship would be a chapter, and then when it was complete, we would part in gratitude, and then I would walk into the next one, and I'm like, I can't believe there's another gentleman who doesn't see his light, and he's, you know, not able to open up or show up the way he wants to. I'm like, I can't be the only one struggling with that. So I
Mm.
went through a relationship school, and which is brilliant. And then I decided to become a relationship coach for that reason. And I get to see more and more of those gentlemen getting the education that they would want if they choose to show up in their life. And self-doubt in those gentlemen happens for two interesting reasons, right? If I may
Go for it.
direct
Go for it.
right over it. So one is let's say a more logical one, like a masculine desire to go like, hey, I want to go next level. Sam, I want to go next level. So you would be then Oksana, you'd say like, okay, so what is in the way? And we would identify there is a comparison there somewhere. There is an authority that they have subordinated themselves to, that they're comparing themselves, and you can't win against comparison, right? You're perfect the way you are. But if you don't see that perfection and you expect yourself to be different, you'll end up putting yourself in the pit, and that ideal authority will be up there. So comparison is what tends to get people into self-doubt there. That's the one logical reason. The other reason is a more emotional, that is a more personal reason. Somehow we are raising our girls and our women eventually to be, fairly in touch with their emotions, and able to express themselves, to be elaborate with their language. And we raise our boys to be strong,
Mhm.
ambitious, courageous, less so in tune with their emotions. We're kind of not interested in developing that side in them. So we end up having guys that are amazing in their careers, very driven, very accomplished, and great at what they know they can do, because we spent our whole lives telling them that they're great at it, right? So that gets
Yeah.
reinforced. And where they end up having self-doubt is whether they're a good human, because they end up not knowing how to just be with their spouses, be with their children. And it gets difficult. Like, relationships are sometimes tough and complicated, and then they have that experience that they'd rather stay at work and continue excelling
Mm.
where they already get praise and accomplishment, rather than go home where they get criticized and torn down. And so self-doubt in terms of like, am I a good human, am I a good husband, because I
Mm.
just make all this money, but I am told that I come home late. I'm told I don't care about my kids because I spend less time with them than the mom. And that's very painful. That's a personal topic to me that I love speaking out against, that I love sharing, that love comes in many, many forms.
Yeah.
And work on that self-doubt. And I've just recently, the reason you and I got connected was because I congratulated you on your latest book, which is like, well done, Sam.
Well,
Awesome.
thank you so
Thank you for
much.
the
Thank you.
inspiration. Yeah. And that's where I'm like, hey, I was sharing this. I'm just in the process of writing my first. So way to go for being the giant that whose shoulders I look forward to standing on.
Well, maybe
Which
we
will be.
can connect the topic of my book is imposter syndrome. We'll connect this to self-doubt in a minute, but please keep telling your backstory and how you found your passion for this. And I also want to ask you about something you just mentioned about helping men find their light. And that sort of just stuck out to me there at the moment, because I'm reading a book by Joseph Campbell at the moment called Myths of Light. And it's about Eastern philosophies and religions. And it's about becoming aware of the transcendent, or I guess, the eternal presence within humans. And so that's really interesting to me right now. But we'll somehow throw them into the conversation. But please continue with how you came to be passionate about this topic.
Brilliant. I think everybody on this broadcast and everybody listening to this replay later will agree that in some shape or form we're all on our way to find the light within, or rather we're journeying back inside to find that light. It never left us, but we're kind of in a way wanting to discover it. So I Because of how I saw my own dad having gone through the divorce that my parents did, and me not having seen him all that much, I had a perception that my dad had a huge amount of light. But when I met him and when I experienced him, I saw this again, like a little bit shut down, unsure human who wasn't sure how to connect with his daughter. He was great at paying for things for me, but
Mm.
then he'd do is he'd pay for vacation for me and said, "Well, I can't go. I have to work to make the money to send you on vacation," which is, I
Defeating the
mean,
point. Well intended, but defeated the point.
to some degree it did. I know that at that point in time he wasn't ready to spend time together. And I'll tell you an anecdote. Like my dad remarried, and I have no idea how he's landed two amazing women in his life, my mum and my stepmom. They just like rock heavy. Anyway, so she's amazing, and she says, we don't really go on vacations as family. So she said we did once, my dad, her, his second wife, and the two sisters that I have. And they went once, and she's like, "Oh my God, it was horrible to watch him. There were no friends with us. And he was just like so sad. He doesn't enjoy spending time just with his family. It's hard for him. It's just very hard to spend too much one-on-one time without friends, without his values, right? My dad has a value system that is providing for families what he's great for. And a lot of men are really great at that. And that's his love that he has for his family. And his other values, which determines who he is inside, is a lot on social, helping friends, being there for friends, and in his where he's asked for intellectually. And at home, I have to say that unfortunately we don't always appreciate his intellect, so he's wise enough to find that appreciation elsewhere. Classic story of 21st century marriage.
Oh yeah.
Absolutely. I don't
Oh
know,
yeah.
Sam, have you heard something similar? Can you
Yeah.
relate to that experience?
Well, my Australian background or upbringing is that men find it difficult to talk about their emotions. And I think that might be a result of the Depression era, World War One and Two, and
Mm,
a mentality in Australia that the man should just sort of get to work and ignore how he feels in order to, protect and raise the family well, by providing. And that can be seen everywhere,
yes.
unfortunately, right? So, yeah, that has also, been my experience. I think, connecting with my own father initially was a bit of a challenge, but now
Mm,
because I've gone down this road of like, I'm looking for great relationship with my own dad, I was able to create it and we have a fantastic relationship now. And, um, but that can, for some people is a real challenge for sons to connect with their father, because of a cultural value that you're not supposed to talk about feelings because it's considered wrong or weak. Isn't that
absolutely.
strange? Wrong or weak.
Yeah, I can.
So I think now, fortunately, it's considered strong and intelligent to, to connect as males, sons and fathers to connect and, say, I really love spending time with you and appreciate each other and shoot the
Mm,
breeze. I think what's missing is a lot of time. What I think a son or a daughter spending time
mm,
with the father or the mother, and I think of the classic, in America, they have the father and the son throwing the baseball back and forth to each other in the
mm,
backyard and just shooting the breeze. I think that's it's a missing key in a lot of people's relationships, and I call it shooting the breeze. You just throwing a ball kind of pointlessly and just talking about whatever. And that is a great
mm,
bonding experience because um, it's playful, it's not so serious, it allows people to be their authentic self. So that's what I encourage people to do is to shoot the breeze, no matter what the relationship dynamic is.
mm. It's a great start. Absolutely is. What maybe what you've observed yourself, Sam, is that We're talking on a bigger level. When we talk about values, right? When I speak of it, I usually reference John DeMartini's research on axiology and values determination. So there is a thing called like a more global society value, and you just mentioned like the wonderful transformative world wars that we went through, and during that time we as a collective we had the greater value for strength and survival and making it through
Mm,
alive and figuring out the future, and the future was very uncertain. So at that time, it makes sense that we didn't see much value in conversing about emotions, because usually when we open up, we kind of
yeah.
we drop everything, and that's a relaxation. That's not like keeping it together and
Mm,
like powering through. So it makes sense that during that time we didn't quite allow ourselves that privilege, that we're okay, like our safety is all right, and we can actually allow us to have a more privileged conversation about how do I feel,
mm.
can I be myself? Am I living in a space where I'm allowed to have an opinion? I'm allowed to express a contrary view. I mean, nowadays it's a big thing to say whether you're vaccinated or not. Like
Yeah.
families are molded and divided by just that one statement.
Oh,
So
yeah.
we've kind of gone back in that sense. But let's say before COVID, we had a lot of these freedoms that allowed us to like finally look at these very privileged conversations about the quality of connection that we'd love to have with our parents, and primarily with our dads, because our women have different type of problems, and if you ever wanted to talk about those, we could probably dedicate a whole
Exactly.
different series of the podcast. But if we stay on the male side, it's something generationally that we are working through now, and there are beautiful researchers that are talking about the covert male depression, and how we are just beginning as a society to allow that, as you were saying, it is considered strong now and attractive by women to have men have high emotional IQ. That's
Mm.
incredibly attractive, right? It's something profoundly novel.
Yeah, novel's a good word for it. Let's talk about this idea you brought up just before, helping men see their light. Um, Maybe you can start by defining what do you mean by a man's light. You're not talking about, the headlights of his car.
Hmm.
You're talking about something inside, or perhaps, a man's presence.
Hmm. Yes, I do. That's precisely it, Sam. When I have a privilege to work with the gentlemen that come to consult with me in the coaching environment, they come for a certain reason. Often it has something to do with their relationships. So the self-doubt in relationship, where they're being feeling criticized, not appreciated what they've done for their families, and sometimes even fairly close to a breakup, to a divorce. And in that moment, they're really seeking for some answers for that light. Like, it can't be that everything I did is so bad.
Mm,
It can't be that my whole marriage is now worth nothing, because often the hardship is posed as like, well, women go through most of the time children are involved, right? So women go through the childbearing and raising the kids, and it is often portrayed as that challenges on the women's side, and men kind of let them hang, and oh, because they don't feel comfortable supporting them emotionally. Well, that is quite true. And the gentlemen that I work with, when they give themselves permission to speak openly, they say, well, I was affected by that child being born as well.
mm,
I also actually contributed in working at home, even if I didn't do as much as you did. I contributed my part too, and I didn't feel you saw me for that either, for the hardship that I went through at work. I don't know if you, my darling wife, saw me for that either. So they're looking for those answers and to feel okay with the husband and the father that they are. And we talked a little bit about comparisons before, and the task of them finding their light often is around redefining what it is for you to be a good human. And it's not, so they will often say, of course, family is the most important thing, right? Oh, this is like something socially we've been conditioned to say, family is the most important
Yeah.
thing.
Yeah.
Um, I don't mean to say that family is unimportant. We all value family. The form, how we choose to love our family is frequently different. And when the conversation is framed that the only acceptable form is by time, like we just talked about my dad, who paid for my vacation, but I struggled to appreciate him for paying for it. I didn't want him to pay, I wanted time with him. It's the same
Mm.
thing. So it's still that kind of misunderstanding of the form of love is authentic to that human being who is giving it. So that gentleman who is working with me is then on his path to find that his form, how he has been loving his family, is enough and is perfect and it's beautiful. And if he chooses to, he has, if he wants to, he can learn different tools to shift that form to a different way in the future if he wants to experience different connection with them. But all of this time, he most certainly has been loving his family and he has demonstrated it day in and day out, just the same way, just as his wife has. And that is their journey back to
So
their own light.
let me just clarify what you've said is that if a man can see his light when he recognizes and approves of his own human nature and, let's say, good deeds. He says, yeah, I'm doing a great job, and gives himself that validation. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, absolutely. Because Sam, I'm sure you'll agree that when we do something, when we make a choice to do a certain thing, be it work 12 hours a day, 7 days a week, or for whatever reason, have to stay elsewhere where we can't see our family as much. At that point in time, that human believes that that is the best thing to do.
Hmm.
And if he could, he would spend more time with his family if it was possible for him.
Yeah.
Yet he made the choice that to him was the best choice at the time. And when that man is able to find that in him, that's when the light comes out.
I want to shift just slightly here and bring in this idea of imposter syndrome and get maybe a story from you about one of your clients who went through self-doubt and felt like that they were a phony and a fraud in some role of their life, whether that's a relationship, maybe in their career or in their business. Imposter syndrome, for people watching, is persistent self-doubt despite evidence of ongoing success, particularly around intelligence, accomplishments. There's also issues around feeling that you might have accomplished things by luck, or someone made a mistake and hired you when you really didn't have the street credentials, or maybe you feel that you don't deserve the position that you are in. That's what I see as imposter syndrome. I think that's the sort of the standard dictionary definition. So, Oksana, tell us a little story about maybe, or give us some insights on imposter syndrome and self-doubt. What do you think's really going on?
It's interesting. So with self-doubt, we looked at the two types of the ones, right? So one was how I would see we have a subordination to somebody on the outside, and that's why we're not able to go to that next level, or we kind of feel undeserving of our family loving us because we've made certain career choices. So in terms of like one-to-one imposter syndrome story, Sam, I'm sorry to let you down. I haven't had a single one like to that degree, because what is an imposter syndrome? To me, it is like you could say a fairly extreme case of self-doubt, right? Like it's fairly far on the spectrum, and not everybody's experience has to has to have that intensity to it.
Mm.
So my most prominent example is one of my favorite long-term ladies clients that I work with. She is in the process of redefining the South African she was kind of held hostage a little bit by the industry, thinking, well, how you're supposed to do it is you're supposed to do clients, you know, where you do the procedures of the permanent makeup. You're supposed to do that, and then you can teach a little bit on the side others how to do that. Well, she had a dream to just be a teacher. She watched John DeMartini present his seminar. She's like, I want to do that. I'm like, you're doing that. She's like, but I can't do it. Nobody does it. Did you hear me? Did I care about what everybody else does? You just told me you were born to be a teacher. What is she? But and it's like such a significant portion of my income, and I don't know if I can do it. I don't have any role models. I'm like, yeah, you're going to be a role model to everybody freaking else. And it was so painful for her. It was so scary to let go of that income. But I saw her week after week, and she just, her energy was like low of doing those seeing those individuals, those clients, but she just wanted to teach. She just, you know, like, how am I going to fill my classes? I'm like, you're going to figure it out. You're redefining the industry. And she bloody hell did. That's what she still does. She's the only one who just teaches. She's not seeing clients. She's not available for clients, not even, no matter how much they pay. She just doesn't do that. She makes all of her money from teaching. And I don't think of anybody in the whole globe who does that. Everybody has that security backup of also doing what everybody in the industry does. You see clients, and then you have the mass of people providing you that income. It's just so inspiring when you can see somebody like, and I may be telling the story with a little bit of, you know, fun and ease.
Please do.
Yes, what I'm saying is, it wasn't easy. It wasn't easy. I mean, Sam, you would know, for the people who work with you, it's not easy to break through that self-doubt, because everything in your body sometimes jeopardizes your efforts, and you screams against you. You can't do this. Who are you to do this?
Well, I believe
you're not going to.
I believe the most powerful insight I can give about self-doubt is change the story you tell yourself inside your head. And I really I think stories dictate our lives, and the story that, whether that's the one we watch on Netflix or the one at the movies, we love stories. The brain recognizes stories and we pay attention. And then we have the stories that we tell ourselves inside our head. And we also have a different kind of story that we experience when we go to sleep at night. They're called dreams. And they are hardwired into us to have a massive effect on the way we see the world, our thought processes, and our decisions. And if you think, or if you are unaware of the impact of the story going through your head, you will not be able to see a way out of that story. You will think, that's my character that I'm going to play in my own movie for the rest of my life. But I tell people, no, much like an actor can audition for a different movie, you can do the same thing with your own life. You can audition for a different story. You can audition for a different role. But that's hard work. You have to learn new lines. You have to get into character. You have to change your costume, and you have to show up to the movie theater or the theater stage and get on that stage and go through the vulnerability of forgetting your lines and, you know, stumbling and fumbling your way to getting into your character and feeling comfortable in your own skin. So I have had a lot of success in creating my own story and my own future out of a spirit of playfulness, and just saying, you know what, you're allowed to. In fact, the universe is a dance and a drama and a play. And that's coming from my understanding of Eastern religion and philosophy. Hindu, Buddhist, Taoists, they all believe that the universe is a divine dance, and it just goes
Mm.
back and forth, and you can dance however you want. That's why I asked you at the start of this interview, what's the kind of music that you love to dance to? Because I feel that when we're dancing, we're improvising ourselves, we're being our most authentic self. And a lot of people don't know that they can tap into their light and their authenticity through playfulness. And in fact, as
Mm.
a kid, that's what we did. We just played. We had no agenda. And as a result, we were most authentic and free, and we could create ourselves to be any way we want to. And when we're playing, we don't worry about mistakes. We kind of go, oh, well, that's part of it. And so I say, embrace the part of you that feels like an imposter, because that's really a sign of a great imagination. If you can believe that you are faking yourself despite evidence, that tells me that you have a fantastic imagination and the ability to pretend that something is real when it's not. That's powerful. And that's a playful way of looking at it. And I think people have approaching personal transformation way too seriously. Way
Mm.
too seriously. They don't have any music or dancing or laughter in personal transformation anymore, and there needs to be.
Mm.
There needs to be more
Brilliant.
dancing and disco.
Okay, more disco. So when Sam takes you through, there'll be music involved, everyone. So I'm keeping him to his
There'll be
word, and you'll report back to
dancing and
me.
singing lessons and acting lessons, because we have this great ability to be an actor and to play a role, and we are playing a role. Like, you're playing Oksana, I'm playing Sam, and your clients who might be going through some sort of challenge is playing that role, and they don't know that they can change the role.
Hmm. I
So
would even go as far as to say it's not even a role. That's also you. You is not just one figure. You
exactly,
is
you
so
can
much
change
bigger.
costumes. You can change costumes, you can change shoes. People say, oh, the jacket makes the man, or the shoes, when you wear someone else's shoes, or when you walk a day in someone else's shoes, you get to know that person. Well, why don't you just shift and change your shoes and feel what it's like to be someone else, even though it's still
Hmm.
you? It's a kind of a playful way of uh, exploring who you could be.
Hmm.
So these are the things that I talk about to help people to overcome self-doubt.
That's profound, Sam. That's so profound. I would like to invite everybody who is listening now, like right now, to make use of the powerful insights today. And I want you to ask yourself this one question that Sam was just talking about. What is the story that you're currently telling yourself about who you are and where you are in your life? So just become mindful of that chatter, because that chatter is going
Mm,
all the time. Who are you right now? And what is your life? And then after that, I want you to compare it to, do I like it?
yeah.
Do I love the story that I'm telling myself every day? Is it fun? Does it make me want to do more of it?
And I'm going to
Because
add
if it
to that.
isn't,
I'm going to add to that and say, once you've asked those questions, now ask yourself, what other kind of person would I like to be? Or think about what other characters you could play in your life, which is a play, like on
mm,
stage, and get creative, improvise. We are here for a short time. We might as well enjoy it, and
mm,
remove any barriers that we place on ourselves through comparisons, or judgments, and start to see, well, rather than say, where's the problem, go, where is the solution? Where is the avenues of creativity? That's
mm.
what I'm gonna add to your brilliant questions. Yeah, who are you? Who am I being right now? What
Why are you
story
here?
am I playing? And what story do I want to tell myself about my own future and what is happening right now? That's a powerful entry point into personal transformation.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And just as Sam was saying, just give yourself permission to be whoever you want to be. You don't feel that just because, well, I've been this version of me for 30 years now, I have to continue, I have to live it out because that's what I started with, right? It's
Yeah,
it's a compulsion. Don't give into it.
there's a famous record producer. His name is Clive Davis. Like there's a Netflix show on him. He discovered Whitney Houston, Alicia Keys, many other great artists, and he says every 10 years I reinvent myself. And every 10 years he looks for the new young music to help him reinvent himself. And that's an inspirational kind of guy who he must be getting on now. He must be 70, and he's still got that playful spirit of reinventing himself, even though he's been playing a different role for the last decade or so. So I get a lot of inspiration from men older than me who are, aware of their
Where
own
you want to
light
be.
and know how to create a new light show. Put it that way. Oksana, we're going to wrap things up.
Fantastic.
I want you to thank you so much for this wonderful conversation. And I want you to share with people your website or any offer that you've got going, or maybe tell people how they can get in contact with you.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me. Thank you, everyone, for listening and valuing you and valuing your growth and wanting to rewrite the story you tell yourself about you. Where I will meet you is on my website, oksana.coach. It's OKSANA.coach. It's an actual designation. You can come and hang out with me, just connect with me, and I'd be happy to get on a phone call with you to just talk, to just connect and talk about what is it that you would love to build for your life. Because my favorite time of the year is coming. The year is about to end. If you noticed, we're approaching Christmas. So what it means is
Glühwein.
hopefully you can give partially. I don't. Me and Glühwein, we're not friends. We're not friends. But my favorite part about end of the year, if you give yourself permission to look at what has this year brought you, and if you look past of potentially feeling like, oh, I failed, I didn't achieve much this year, I had these goals and I did nothing for it. Well, just because you didn't notice what was truly important to you. Because in things that you were important, you rocked it and you kicked ass. And if you give yourself that permission to look at what did you achieve and how are you going to grow it next year, because next year is coming. I hope you're ready. And if you're not, I'd love to speak with you. Just get in touch, connect with me, and I'll be there to help.
Thank you so much,
Sam,
Oksana. Thank you so
everything
much.
that you do.
Absolute pleasure. All right, well, Oksana, we're going to have a quick chat after this broadcast's finished, but everybody, please go and check out Oksana's website, oksana.coach. And again, thank you so much, Oksana.
Thank you, everyone. See you next time.